name is Katherine Carpenter, and today I'm going to be giving my short persuasive speech on the topic of why vintage clothing is superior to retail. This is my audience. I have this memory from back when I was in 9th grade about how everyone had the same pair of jeans. They were from a store called Heartbreaker, and they were very specific. They were dark wash and they had white stitching and giant rhinestones on the back pockets. I begged my mom for a pair of these jeans until finally she let me. And then suddenly I felt cool, like I had some sort of value. Around the same time, everyone started shopping at stores like H&M and Forever 21, so I shopped at those stores. By the end of the year, a lot of my new shirts had holes in them and they were pilly, and my jeans had definitely seen better days as well. They deteriorated and lost their value. I feel like a lot of people can relate to this same false sense of value that comes from wearing what everyone else wears. Later in the year, my friends started shopping at a thrift store across the street. This is where everything changed. Finding new clothes and new ways to wear them opened our minds to all different kinds of possibilities. For example, if you see a big, oversized button-up shirt, maybe somebody would walk by and see it and scoff and say something like, "Oh, that was just some old man's shirt." But we could see it and wear it in a way that was youthful and creative and unique. That's where something changed for me in terms of how I define value. I discovered my love for new clothes that were vintage and secondhand. It's important to purchase vintage and thrifted clothing as opposed to retail for 3 different valuable reasons: quality, uniqueness, and the reduction of waste. First, I'm going to talk about quality. Simply put, yesterday's clothes were just made better than today's clothes. With clothing that's made today, it's made for quantity, and quality is an afterthought if it's even a thought at all. In 2017, Rebecca Emily Darling of the HuffPost said, "It's not uncommon to find luxurious details like French seams, generous hems, and exquisitely crafted buttons on even the most basic of older vintage garments. These days, even dresses that cost hundreds of dollars boast barely a millimeter of extra fabric, and a quick look at the interior of these garments reveals that regardless of the quality of the design, they were constructed with heightened attention paid to saving the manufacturer money." Today, it's impossible to find the same quality that is in vintage clothing unless you shop at the most expensive, luxurious stores. Darling again explains it perfectly when she said, it is only by wearing vintage that a person has the chance to experience true luxury construction at a less than luxury price. The next reason that I'm going to talk about why vintage is better than retail is that it enhances the originality of your personal style. When wearing vintage clothing, it's impossible to not be original. Imagine the same woman wearing the same exact skirt from the 1960s today. That's about as likely as lightning striking the same place twice. As you walk through vintage clothing stores, everything screams uniqueness, whether it's the zippers or the seams or the textures or the signs of wear. The list goes on and on and on. That doesn't mean a person can't follow trends or be modern while wearing vintage clothing, and it also doesn't mean you have to be trapped in an era. That's the beauty. You can be eclectic and creative and wear whatever you want. You can wear jeans from the 70s and a jacket from the 90s and a necklace from the 60s. There are no rules at all. The final point I want to talk about is the reduction of waste. The clothing industry, unfortunately, has a ton of pollution. More specifically, the high turnover, high street fashion industry is one of the most polluted industries in the entire world, second only to the oil industry. Rebecca Leonard's 2018 Fashion Revolution article states, "Retailers restock collections every 4 to 6 weeks, pressuring us to buy more and think less, leaving a huge amount of unwanted clothing to be discarded at landfill. That's 16 million tons a year in the United States alone." When people commit to buying vintage, they are not feeding that waste in that machine that is producing all this waste every year in the entire world. As I conclude my speech, I want to reiterate that choosing vintage sees a difference in the quality of your clothing, and it also is enhancing your personal style and your originality, and you're also committing to the reduction of waste in the entire world. I'm so grateful that back in high school, what got me out of the trap of wearing the same old things as everyone else was wearing some old things that once belonged to someone else. Thank you.